Hello and welcome to another video. And this one is going to be a little bit different. This is going to be Rant Warrior Online. It'll probably take about half an hour of your time, maybe a little bit more. I'm going to rant about faction play. What I like about it, what I don't like about it, what I want them to change. As they have said at MechCon and such, that faction play is a point of focus for 2019. They want to improve it. They want to make it better. So they're looking out to the community and saying, what do you people want to see? And this is what I want to see. So we're going to go through it, step by step, of my major issues with faction play. Let's get started. First off, we're going to take a look at loyalty points. You get them for playing faction play matches. You get a little bit every match. They accumulate. You move up on the faction reputation. So, say, for example, Smokejag. In the past, I played a bunch of Smokejag on my main account. I got to Point Commander. That's great. I got 250,000 C-bills. I got a Mech Bay. That is very useful. Now, this faction reputation is essentially experience bars. It's a series of achievements that basically say, you've earned so many loyalty. Here is stuff. The good thing about it is that it exists. It would really suck if it was like, you're earning faction points and they do nothing. Which, thankfully, that doesn't occur. You do get something for your loyalty to a particular faction. However, the way it's done is kind of sucky. Say, for example, where is it here? Rank 8, Nova Commander. So say for Smokejag that I got to rank 8 and I got my cup of pop, which is a cockpit item. What if I didn't want a cup of pop? What if I wanted anything else? What if I wanted, instead of my cup of pop, I wanted some GXP or something? Well, you have no choice. It's a cup of pop. Take it or leave it. Well, you can't leave it. You just take it. It's being forced upon you. It's a reward, yes, but it's not a reward you chose. Like, I think every single rank 8 is a cup of pop. Yeah, it is. Every single rank 8 is a cup of pop. These rewards aren't different. Rank 9, 4,500 GXP, 800,000. Rank 9, well, it's exactly the same. There's no variety here. There's no interestingness. There's no choice. It's an experience bar that you get to repeat. Like 11 times or whatever this is. Like a dozen times of different factions. Like, some of the rewards are good. Like Galaxy Commander, if you get there, you get freaking 2,500 MC. You get 50 million C-bills. That's incredible. Takes a while, but you can get there eventually. But this could be improved so much more. So let's take a look at Warframe. Now, in Warframe, there's something very similar. It's called the Syndicates. It's right over here. So if I open up my Syndicates, I can see that there's 6 options. I've currently aligned with 3 of them, and 3 of them hate me. So you've got some sort of interesting dynamics there of, I can't get what's coming from these Syndicates because I aligned with these ones, and these ones hate these ones. That's interesting. What if we go into Steel Meridian here? We can see that as soon as this lady goes away, there's different levels. There is the Brave, the Valiant, the Defender, the Protector, the General. You have to level up through it. You have to spend your loyalty points in order to level up. But the real cool thing is that this is treated as a currency. So instead of just, I have 13,548 points, and that means I earn this reward that's predetermined for me. I have 13,500 points that I can spend however the hell I want. So I could go here and, for 5,000 points, I can get a decal, essentially. And they're called sigils in this game, but it's a decal, as we know it. For 20,000 points, I can get a relic pack, which is essentially a supply cache of this game. I can get a reusable blueprint that I can craft items to make a squad health restore. That's interesting. I could get a sculpture that I can put into my orbiter. So it's a cosmetic item, like a cockpit item, essentially. I could get different mods that increase my weapons. This would be like, getting skill points or different quirks that I could apply to mechs. I can get unique weapons or cosmetic items and such, which would be like, say, if this particular faction was like Novacat, it would be like getting a unique variant of the Novacat with a cool paint job. That would be like a prestige item. Oh man, look at him. He must have ground through all of Novacat. He must be the highest rank. Because look, he's got the Novacat variant something. And it's like all cool colors. And it's the Novacat pattern. And it's got Novacat decals on it and all that kind of stuff. Wow, that's so cool. The same thing here. Like, you can get a Vacor. Heck, it's the only way to get this shotgun. And that's a great shotgun. It's one of the better ones in the game. You have to grind through Steel Meridian to get it. Well, or in this game, there's player-to-player trading, so you can just buy it off someone. But the big things about having a store compared to a achievement list is that I can choose how I want to spend my stuff. I have most of the stuff in here I want. You see all these little check marks here above the top left of items. So, like, Mezza's Waltz, that's really useful on Mezza. Allows her to move when using an ability that would normally keep her in place. It's extremely useful. I purchased it for $25,000 and I put it on my Mezza character. I've got all of the ones that I really care about. I could keep getting the rest of them just to have a collection. I'll probably do that in the future. But for now, if I gain a bunch of extra Steel Meridian, I'll just get some relic packs. It would be like getting some supply gashes. Or if I have a whole bunch, I'll just get an extra Vacor Heck and then sell it to somebody. Because I can. So this is another way that even after I've maxed out the Syndicate, I'm still benefiting by representing them. And that's cool. Where in MechWarrior, once you've maxed out reputation with something, it's like a, who cares, kid? You've already got all your rewards. Go away. Also, another really cool thing they do is their decals, their sigils, give you additional loyalty points when you wear them. So even in normal missions, which would be like quick play for us, if you're wearing the decals purchased from the store, you would get a little bit of loyalty to your faction, which is so cool. And it's also a way we can try to pull people in to faction play. You give them a little bit of loyalty for signing up with, say, the Novacats. Of course, I'm always going to use Novacats as an example because I am one. So say you give them a couple thousand Novacat points, and they can get a decal and a cockpit item. But then they realize when they use those on their mech, they get a little bit more faction points for Novacat. And then they get a little bit more cockpit items and maybe a decal and then maybe a color or maybe a one-shot camo pattern. And now they're like, wow, this is great stuff. I'm getting good cosmetics from playing this thing. And then you can put it in there as a little seed of, well, you're getting a little bit when you play quick play, but you know what? If you come play faction play, you can get a lot more, and you can go up this faster. And then people will be like, oh, wow, I like the rewards that are in this store, and this other mode gives me way more points. Let's go play it. And then you pull people into faction play that way. Like, you should also, the great thing that they do here in Warframe is like, specifically for different factions, I can go into here and I can go and do a sabotage mission for that particular faction. And I get 1,600. To get that much loyalty just doing normal missions, I don't know, I'd probably have to do like a dozen normal missions. But I could just do one and get that from here. That's great. So I would also do those. I would have daily events or, a whole better daily system. They would be like, hey, you're a Novacat. Why don't you go and kill 5 light mechs or something like that? And here's a bunch of Novacat rep. Or play in your Novacat mechs and here's a bunch of Novacat rep. That would be cool. But anyway, I digress. That's enough talking about this. Turn it into a store, make it a currency, give it a reason to play in both quick play and faction play for that store, and give it a use after you've maxed it out. Those are the key points there. And we're back to MechWarrior Online. Next thing, rewards. We've already talked about faction play stuff, but now let's talk about the money. The C-bills. Let's take a look at the spreadsheet warrior. And you may have seen this in the past. I've used this spreadsheet before, as it's a good spreadsheet. I don't really need to update it. This was me tracking wins and losses for faction play. So I would write down whether or not I got the win, whether or not I got how much damage, what I got for match score, how many C-bills I earned, and how much in-game time it took, which then I used to calculate for each in-game hour, how many C-bills did I earn if all of my matches were like that. Now, that's in-game hour. That's not including at all waiting for the matches, which was a significant portion of the time, but it's representative of how much, and can be compared against, because the same calculation was done down here. So, if we take a look at wins and losses and their averages, the average for the wins is 1,601 damage, 380 match score. The average for the losses is 1,428 damage, 263 match score. So, yes, on losses, we performed worse. Kind of expected. You get killed earlier because your opponents are overwhelming, therefore you don't get a good opportunity to get lots of damage done, so you lose. But comparatively, the damage is only like, what, 15 to 20% less? Same thing with the match score, if I'm not mistaken. It's around that, it's less, maybe a little bit more for the match score. But where it's really different is the C-bills. The average for the wins was 1.2 million, where the average for the loss was only 531,000. That's under half. Why is it so low? Oh, contract rewards. They're dumb. We're only giving them to the winner. There are a couple arguments against this. I'll handle those in a second, but let's just finish doing this. So whenever I got a win, I got a base contract reward of 250,000, which was at the time what I got. That was boosted because I was using pure 30% boosted mechs and premium time, so it was an 80% boost. Your premium time in Heroes actually affects your contract reward as well, which is actually kind of stupid in my mind. But it's kind of nice when it occurs. You can boost that 250,000 base reward to 450,000 contract reward. Like, that contract reward is essentially the entire average reward for a loss. That's where that 50% is. The fact that you can practically double your reward if you win. If we take a look at the C-bills per hour, the winning team got around 3.6 million per hour of in-game time. The losing team got around 1.9 million. But if we add the contract to the base C-bills here, we can now get 981,000 for our C-bills average, which is much closer to the 1.2 million. And for the C-bills per hour, oh, it works out so closely. This is 3.6. this is 3.5, essentially. Like, this is 82,000, this is 85,000, so I'm just rounding both up. It's equivalent. It's only like 100,000 different. That's nothing when it comes per hour. 100,000 C-bills, that's, oh, I changed endo and then I changed it back. And I lost that when I was playing around in the mech lab. That's the kind of money that is. It's inconsequential. But it's ridiculous because we take a look at the summary here. The wins and the losses, the difference is almost the same as the losses. Like a 50% drop in your earnings. But if we add in the contract, the difference is non-consequential. Like 100,000 per hour, who cares? 213,000 C-bills, difference per match. That is reflective of my worst performance. 50% less is not reflective of 20% less damage. 20% less C-bills is reflective of 20% less damage. That, in my mind, makes sense. Now, the common arguments against this is that faction play is a team game, and we shouldn't reward losers. And I would argue against that with the vast majority of game players out there in the entire world are solo casuals. There are people that got home from work and want to play a couple hours to unwind and enjoy themselves. Maybe they'll group up with one of their friends, but more than likely, they're just going to play solo. They are not the kind of people that are going to go and find a 12-man of coordinated people and farm faction play. As such, there's nothing for them in faction play. It's not rewarding. They have no control over whether or not they're going to win or lose in faction play because there is no matchmaker for skill. It'll maybe look at, well, this is a big group and not the big group, and I'll put the big groups against each other, and that's it. It doesn't matter if the one 5-man on one team and the other 5-man on the other team, one is like world champion level competitive and one is beer warriors just having a grand old time. It'll put them against each other. You can't control whether or not you win or lose in faction play sometimes. Another spreadsheet I did, it's in my archive now if you want to find it. It should still be there. Where I would drop into a faction play match. I would, before the match started, just looking at the team layouts, whether or not I would win or lose. Just looking at who's on which team. Then, after the match, I'd record whether or not I was correct. And if everything was perfectly balanced, and it was a 50% win rate, I should get it right 50% of the time. Because I shouldn't know. There may be the odd match where I'm like, wow, we're going to trounce these guys, or, oh shit, it's him. He's going to kill me. Like, there would be an odd match like that, of course. But if it's 50-50, it should be pretty even as well with my predictions. Well, that's not right. I think it was like a 75% accuracy that I was able to predict the outcome of faction play matches just by looking at the starting lineup. That's not right. So that proves that you have no control over the win or loss. If I am able to predict like 70, 75% or whatever it was around there, of the matches, before they even start, just by looking at the matchups, it's not fair. I have no control over whether or not I win then. I can play my damnedest, but I might still lose just because the matchmaker said screw you. So I would give faction play contract rewards to losers that played well. Some matches down here, say these 3, they don't deserve it. I played horribly. I only got 1,000 damage in a 20-minute match and probably went through all 4 of my mechs. Yeah, screw that match. I don't deserve it. We got trounced. But I get 2,000 damage in 14 minutes? I got 400 match score? Yeah, damn right I deserve to get paid well for that match. It's only fair. Compare that to a win where I only did 434 damage because I was running around and capping because in Conquest because no one else would. And I get almost 1 million where I do 2,000 damage and I get only 636,000. And the matches are basically the same length. It's not fair. It's absolutely not fair. So that's about the payouts. But we're going on 20 minutes now and I've only talked about 2 things. My God. Next up is maps. And let us go to the absolute worst map in all of Siege, Boreal Vault. It has perfect examples of the 3 things that are wrong with Siege maps. We have got funneling, long sight lines, and no drop zone protections. So let's go through these one at a time. Starting with sight lines. If you've ever played this map and you've had an ER large laser mech, you know that all you have to do is park your little tush right here and you can laser the world. Anybody tries to take these 2 gates and open them, you shoot them. You have enough range, you're quirked for it, you're skill treed for it. An enemy will try to stand here and shoot the generator, and then he's got like half a dozen ER large lasers just pegging him constantly, and he has to dive off the edge, and he's already crit armor before the gates even open. I've been on both the giving and the receiving end of that. It sucks either way. Receiving end sucks really hard. Giving end is just boring. I've had matches where my opponents literally haven't opened the gates. Or we let them open the gates because we wanted to have a little bit of a brawl at the end. It's disgusting. Along with that, we have funneling. Okay, so where is the enemy going to come from? You're standing here. Where's the enemy? Well, the front. There's only 2 ways into this base, and they're right beside each other. Like, there's no flanking. There's nothing. Why are we all dropping back there when one of the dropships could have come and landed up on here and gave our mechs some overwatch on the base, and they could have come down this area here and going right into there and gone right into the base? That would have been a really cool flank. Nope, not an option. Why couldn't there be like a tunnel that goes back and then goes in through here and goes along all the way along here, and it's a great big tunnel network that pops out like, say, just after the gate or something like that, and there's like a tunnel here or even a tunnel here before the gate? Like, why is there not some option? No, nothing like that. Or we could come along here and there's like after we come up here, there's a ramp to go up this way, and we can come along up top of here and weave down through these mountains and then come over the top down into the base. Nope, no flanking options. Nothing. No interesting activities outside of left or right. And that's it. That's it. You can sit a single person right here and they can tell you exactly where every single enemy is coming in. And the rest of the team can just sit in the center in cover and do whatever the fuck they want, and then just sit here and go, oh, they're going right, and then just push over and then hold here. Oh, or they're going left and then just push over and hold here, and that's it. There's no interesting flanks. This is really obvious on like Grim Portico. The fact that on Grim Portico, the only place you're attacking is the only place with like lots of crystals and walls, when the entire back of the base has no crystals and it's open fields. Why don't we land back there? Why don't we flank the opponents? There's no options to. It's funnel in to the meat grinder, through the thing, into the defensive maw of firepower. Run forward, bum rushing the objective, die, then hope your team actually holds forward and goes and gets an objective and just doesn't get bogged down trying to get a match score or something like that. It's Zerg tactics. It's practically the only thing that works sometimes on these maps, is just rush in, because there's no options. We can't send a group of mediums to flank to the side and surprise their defenders. No, you can't, because they get spotted when they come in. Then, oh, poor defensive. There's no defenses here. These spawn points are the worst of all of faction play. They're spawning on open ground with a open air of like a kilometer. Defenders can push out, get onto this mountain, get into these little divots here for cover, and then just pound the shit out of respawning mechs. No cover, no respite, nothing. You just get dropped right into the middle of the enemy team, and you are half dead before you even hit the ground, because they're lasering your mech from the drop out of the air. Like, why don't we take this ridgeline and we're going to pull it all the way to here to get this back over here and get it behind a ridgeline? Now that one's safe. We take this thing, we move it back over here. Safe. And we take this one, we drag this ridgeline all the way around to here. Safe. Boom. All three things safe behind ridgelines. They can't be sniped by defenders. And you can have a drop where you can actually drop and not be dead by the time you hit the ground. There's been far too many times where I've been on both sides of this, being farmed as I'm dropping on this map and farming when I'm dropping on this map. Neither are fun. Neither are good for the game. It's that kind of stuff that I've heard when playing this, when there's like an event for faction play and you hear people who are trying it for the first time and they're going, what the hell is this? I never want to play this again. This is one of the things that piss people off the most, is the fact that you can be farmed from spawn. I would even go further, and I would make it, if you can, I don't know if you can, but I would love it if you could have different out of bounds for the two teams. So defenders couldn't come over here. Just literally. This is the attacker spawn. Defenders, you know where you can't go? Anywhere past this line. Once you pass that line, you're out of bounds and you die. So that way, if an attacker spawns and drops, they can't be shot from a distance, and they can't be bum rushed. They can organize themselves and push out. Oh, that would be amazing. Now, there could be issues with this, where an attacker is AFK or something along those lines, and they can't, they won't move around here because they're AFK or they're disconnected, and so then the match doesn't end until the timer ends. That's no good. Possibly we would have to have some sort of, result of saying, well, that mech hasn't moved for X amount of minutes, consider it dead. And then if all enemy mechs are dead, then that the game ends. Or maybe you have like a dropship that's landed here that is providing constant covering fire, but it can be destroyed. And if it's destroyed by long-range firepower from our defenders, then the match ends. That way we have some sort of thing where if the defenders are so overwhelming that they push the attackers right back to spawn, the defenders can just pound on the dropship and kill it. And then the attackers just lose. That would be something. That gives the defenders an objective to end the match early on a stomp type thing. Yeah. Those are the main issues with this map. Every single faction play map, siege map, has these issues in a certain quantity. Some have it more, some have it less. Let's go and take a look at one of the better ones and how it does it, which is Vitric Forge. If I had to choose, I would never, ever, ever play Boreal Vault, and I would pretty much always play Vitric Forge. It's a good one. Go into here, Vitric Forge, it's going in. The big things that this map does is it has relatively safe spawns, pretty good cover for its sightlines, and a few choices on how you can approach the base. So first, let's take a look at the spawns. So attacker spawns over here. If we take a look, fly up into the air here, we can see that the attacker spawn is elevated so that ground-based mechs cannot get into it. You have to have jump jets. And then it's covered with the drop zone, so that way you can't see into it as a person drops. This is the best example of safe spawn zones they have in faction play. This is what I want all faction play spawns to look like. An elevated area with cover that you can only get into if you are a light mech with jump jets and are willing to contend with a dropship when it comes in. I personally, I think maybe once in my entire career of MechWarrior, have been spawn killed on this map. On Boreal Vault and other maps, I've been spawn killed a lot. This particular map, not at all, practically. It's very safe. From there, as you come out of your thing, as you come out of your spawn, you drop down, making this pretty much a one-way for majority of mechs. No one takes enough jump jets on their heavies and assaults to get up there. It would be only lights that can get back. You have cover. Enemies don't have huge sightlines. You can come and you can weave through here. There's a little bit of sightline here, but you can also come around the far right side and then push over to this and then push along to here and then push up to here. There's plenty of cover in order to get to the enemy front from your spawn. You just got to use the terrain properly. A little bit of sightlines, but that's fine. Once you get here, there's actually a few options. The base entrances are kind of far away. Not really far apart when it comes to the defenders, because they'll defend centrally and then shift left or right as needed. But there's a few options. You can go far left, you can go in the middle, you can go far right, you can hook around the back and come through, you can hook through here and then come straight in. There's actually a few options. Something that would improve this map, tunnel right through here. Plow right through so you can go to the other side. So you could come in left, shift right with a group of, say, mediums, and then flank them as your assaults come around the left side. Oh, that would be glorious. You could scout that by having a seismic sensor mech on top of here, like a seismic sensor light. He could be up here going, oh my god, they're going through the tunnel. Oh, watch out. Alternatively, even more options for entering this base. Add something here. Able to come up through a little valley and come right out through here. Have like a little secondary gate or something like that that opens at the same time that this thing opens. That'd be kind of cool. That way you can come in from the side if you're a sneaky light. You have to watch that. Not only that, you have to watch here. Maybe there's a tunnel somewhere over here, like that you can tunnel through from, say, right here, tunnel through here, and then pop out right here. So you can essentially bypass this gate, but there's like turrets lining the tunnel, so you have to contend with them, and people will know that you've cleared the tunnel. But then after that, you can use it as a nice little sort of passageway in, or even just within the base, right here. Have a little tunnel that goes right to there, and then right through here, and then pops out back here. That'd be cool. That way, defenders could, say the enemy is coming in and they're coming straight through here, defenders that are back here could flank around them and get behind them. Oh man, that'd be so cool. Opens so many tactical options. But that's the only thing this map really doesn't have, is a few of those tactical options on how you can move through the map. Its sightlines are fine. There's both sniping and brawling. Its spawn points are the best. I've hardly been spawn camped in them. This, if I could choose, would be the map that I'd play on 100% of the time for all my faction play. But for your faction play, you're not always playing on Siege. Sometimes you've got the quick play game modes. And honestly, only one of them works. Conquest. It is the only game mode that I think is valid for respawns. I guess you could call Siege valid for respawns. You have to do waves of attacks, but then it's just more like a Zerg rush, or that you're a minion in a tower defense game. Oh, if we throw another wave at them, we'll get a little bit deeper into their defenses, sort of mentality. I'll take a look at Tourmaline Desert here, so as we talk about Conquest. Conquest is the only game mode that forces you to take control of the map, forces you to take multiple different types of mechs, and forces you to, spread out and not ball up and just be a murder ball. So on Conquest on this map, we're going to have a point there. We have a point here at Theta. We have a point over here. We have a point really far back. A little bit higher here. Come on. There we go. Point back here. And we have a point all the way on the other side back here. Now, more than likely, except if you have a flanking light, you're going to have these far points here secured by your team. That's going to be basically it. One team is going to secure that, and it's going to be like, oh, we need a light to go over there and do this capture. The majority of the fighting is going to be your Theta fights. Yeah, it's the majority of fighting happening in Tourmaline Desert. It happens around Theta. Makes sense. But I've had some really cool matches on Conquest where I have decided, ooh, we're getting close to capture. We're going to win by objective, which you normally do on Conquest, where skirmish and assault and all that kind of stuff is all win by kill everyone. Conquest is win by objective for the majority of the time. So there was a situation, and this is one of my free-to-play vids, so I can probably find this, and or you can find it. It was one of the times when they had the faction play events. We had captured, I think this is Kappa. We captured Kappa. And I was sitting back here where the Centurion is, when you're in here in testing grounds. And I was sitting right here, just sort of, just out of sight. I was in like a linebacker or something like that. And I'm just waiting, going, we're really close, and I want to ensure that we have this point. So I captured it, and then I feigned, so I was at the point, I captured, I feigned running back, and then I weaved back this way, and instead of going this way and rejoining with the team, I just swung around and parked right here and waited. Exactly as I predicted, 30 seconds later of me waiting there, this point starts to get captured by the enemy team. So I push out around the corner and I start running down, and there's a light capturing it. But you know what he's doing? He's looking this way and that way and not looking back towards me because he doesn't expect me to come from back there. And so I sneak up behind him and I eviscerate him and I kill him because I was using a WUB, like a medium pulse laser linebacker, and I just absolutely destroy the light. And then I recapture the base and then I go back and hide. Like, if you're playing any other game mode, me away from my team, hiding, waiting for an opportunity like that would be the worst thing possible. But in Conquest with respawns, the enemy will not kill your team because they'll respawn. The most important thing is you maintain your captures. So that really interesting gaming experience that I had would have never occurred with single spawns or with a game mode that doesn't focus on the game mode. If I was the master of MechWarrior and I could change anything, I would make it so that the only game modes that you could get in faction play would be the new and improved Siege that I've been talking about and Conquest. Screw Skirmish and Assault and Domination and Incursion. They don't work well with respawns. They're all about just killing your opponents. They work fine in quick play where it's just, oh, we lost, let's drop into another match. But in faction play, if you lose your first match, like you lose your first team 12-0 when you drop in and it's skirmish, you're done. It's practically impossible for you to come back from that. In Conquest, you can, because your kills don't matter. It's your points. Another good example of that is I was playing a Conquest match, faction play, on Polar Highlands. We took a bunch of heavies and assaults. Oh, we trounced their first lance. We just destroyed them like 12-2. But we were in a bunch of assaults. We were slow. They, understanding that, the entire enemy team dropped in lights and mediums and started scampering around the map and capturing everything back. We would leave a couple guys on a point to defend it. They get swarmed by 5 mediums. We couldn't win. So, even though my Marauder 2C was perfectly healthy, ready to fight, I had to eject so I could get into my Shadow Cat, which is designed to hunt lights, and go and hunt down their cappers. That's so cool. The fact that I had to make that decision to give up a perfectly healthy mech because the battlefield situation had changed. You would never get that in skirmish. Never. Because the enemy can't win by any other means but then come and kill you, so why would you get out of your really strong attacking mech? Anyway, this has been a rant and a half. I've probably gone well over half an hour. I don't have my timer open right now as I just randomly run around in Tourmaline Desert. But that is my rant for faction play. In a perfect world, I would have all those changes. I would have rewards given to losers that performed well. I would have the store version of the loyalty rewards. I would have all those changes done to the maps of Siege. And I would have only Conquest being the quick play that can occur with respawns. That would be my perfect faction play, and I would play that constantly. And I believe that would boost its population, at least by 1, because I would play it nonstop. But that's going to be it. I have rambled and ranted, and I want your opinions. Thanks for listening, and good hunting.